Greetings, everyone. When we refer to Jamaica as our island, what does that really mean in today's term? Because we know that the island of Jamaica attracts people from around the world, which is a good thing. And I'm going to say here that I have no issues with people making Jamaica their home, regardless of their race or their background. In fact, the motto is out of many, one people. But in terms of the geographical location, I can still identify with the place. But in terms of the culture and the way we used to do things in terms of our tradition, things have changed so much. And so I have less empathy for some people in Jamaica because they have allowed themselves to let go of their roots, let go of their tradition, and have adopted things that is here to harm them. The last 18 months clearly demonstrate the struggles that Jamaicans have because they have let go of their culture and because they have adapted, things, traditions that now work against them. And we're going to go into that discussion throughout this video to look at how people are struggling financially and how things could be better. With 1 pound of flour, your life could be better if you would just leave the foreign things alone. Now, when we think about poverty, we often think about, the lack of resources or financial income and all that stuff. But the people still have the resources that will allow them to feed their family. So when you're thinking about farming, they have abandoned farming. I'm not saying everyone, but the people themselves have abandoned the traditional way of eating from the ground. And so to them, the better food is the foreign food. What about the rich culture? What about the richness of the food, like yam and, pumpkin, as I showed you, and scallion? Now, all these ingredients I'm showing you now, is what you could use to make soup. For a family of four, you could feed your family with $2,000. And I see people going into the supermarket to show you what you can get for $2,000, showing bread and sardine, rice and um, cornmeal. And that's all good and dandy, but we're talking about stretching the dollar and at the same time eating healthy. And so you can make a pot of soup with your pumpkin, and the ingredients that you just saw, and then you can buy your cornmeal as per usual and make your porridge, getting the ingredients that you're now seeing on the screen. But people have abandoned these things. These are healthy ways to feed your family. But no, you will see the same people who some are not even working outside of the household buying instant porridge in a package. I've never seen anything more ridiculous. And all the stuff that they're buying, instant soup and instant porridge and all this nonsense, is expensive. And they're saying that I shall feel sorry for them when I live in what they call foreign and I would not allow myself to eat that way. I'm still going to get my cornmeal. I'm still going to use my coconut milk. And if that's too expensive to get a coconut back home, you can always use the Lasco. What is Jamaica coming to? Supermarket. Look at the supermarkets. Look at the price of the things in the supermarket and the abundant Coronation Market where you can go in there and get the natural food that is coming straight from the earth. The natural vegetables like carrots and pumpkin and ginger root and turmeric. These are healthy stuff to feed the body. And yes, I know things are expensive, but $2,000 in Coronation Market is going to get you far better quality food for your family. And so when you make a pot of soup, That could last you for 2 days. And if you don't have a refrigerator, then you don't have to make that soup to serve for 2 days. You can cook the next day. But the average mother in Jamaica nowadays don't want to cook anymore. They'd rather send their children to the Kingston Fall Club to buy overpriced food that is harming them. I'm not saying that I don't like chicken or I never used to love chicken. I've always shared my weakness with this. But I would not go into KFC when I'm a poor person with 3 or 4 children. I could take that same money, purchase that same chicken, and make it at home. So, as we're crying about the hardship of Jamaica, we're not looking at our habits, our spending habits, and how we are making things worse for ourselves and our family. The people would leave their neighbor who is a farmer and go and purchase things in the supermarket, food that is toxic, GMO food, food that is modified. They would abandon the person next door or the person in the market who sells the carrot to buy some huge carrots in the supermarket. That from the moment you look at them, you can see that these things, they look sick. They don't look healthy. No carrot should be the size of a squash. It's insane. So when you see they were being hauled in and penned in and then let out like wild animals to run out on particular days to shop and do whatever they needed to do, the thing looked bad. And we can attack the ones who were doing that to them. But at the same time, the people are not thinking. And you would think that after that, or after these months and months of being treated like wild animals, that they would think it's time to get back to our farming. It's time to get back to the natural source of our livity. Because if you had your farm, no one could, blackmail you, or no one could, force these constraints upon you, because you would be having a sustainable way of living. You'd be smart with what you're putting in your body and what you're securing for this time that is coming. And as I've shared with you people in the past, I have seen shortages of bread and yam and all these things. You would think that during this time, people would gather these things and to ensure that no one could use terrible, tactics or strategies on them to force them to do things that they don't want to do. And as they're concerned about their appearance, because that's what it seems to be these days, people are just concerned about the external look and not what's going on the inside. They're not paying attention to their health or their wealth for that matter. So I'm saying that when you look at the landscape of the people, though a large percentage are Afro Caribbean people, now we have like 75,000 from the last search Chinese that live in Jamaica. And I'm not saying I have an issue with Chinese people living in Jamaica. I'm just saying that it seems like the ones that are, from other places, foreigners, their culture seems to be taking root even as ours die. The people mentally are changing so much, and a lot of what they're eating makes a big difference. They abandon real food in pursuit of GMO food. That does not make any sense to me. And it is going to get worse as their health decrease. They first of all don't have any proper health care in Jamaica, and as they continue to eat foods that are unhealthy for them, and then they cry and they make excuse that life is so hard without realizing that they are participating in their own destruction as well. I could never go to Jamaica and enter a supermarket to purchase any foreign food while I am away from Canada, When I go home, I want the natural food. I want to go to the farmer's market and I want to get the produce, things that I cannot get here. For example, I was sharing with a friend recently that I can't remember the last time I had roast breadfruit. For every time I purchase it, I had to dump it because it didn't turn out. Something is wrong. And so while I support the Asian market in this country, I am not going to go to Jamaica and support an Asian supermarket when I can go to support my local farmer that are producing healthy food for my consumption. So we have to really look at some of the things that we're doing and how we can change the way we do these things to better ourselves. We can't always look to government, always look to other persons to solve our problem. We look at the situation in front of us and we must come up with solution. And the solution is that the people should start eating what they grow. And there's no excuse. If you're in the city, most people in the city have relatives in the country. Even if you have to pay them to farm food for you, provide them with fertilizer and you know, some assistance to grow the food for you, there's really no excuse. And if you live in the city, you can find a car tire somewhere to plant even your herbs. On a budget of $2,000, a mom can still feed her children. We have to stop making these excuses. When you buy a can of sardine and you buy a bread, that's all good and dandy. These are things that we used to like. But a pound of flour to make some fried dumpling or boil some dumpling will go further, especially when you have a big family and your resources are limited. So the people need to think and stop blaming the Chinese for coming to the country to do what is best for them and their nation. They're doing what's best for them. And as they're creating jobs for some people, also understand that, listen, they're not doing this for you. The priority is to build themselves and their generation. And when you go in any typical Chinese supermarket, you'll see that in front of the cashier, you have Chinese people supervising their business, and every item that is sold, you have to give them the money right there. They're just there watching you. And yes, they are employing Jamaican people, but at the same time, they don't trust you. They're not there to build you. They're there to build themselves. They're genius in understanding that you sell things for a small profit and you end up making more sales over time and they increase their wealth and that money is sent back to the nations where they come from. Their governments are looking out for them and sending them around the world to make sure that they can capitalize on our stupidity. Jamaican supermarket with all these toxic food. When you look at cereal and look at ingredients in there, that clearly tells you that some of these things are poisonous, and that's what our people are running down to get cereal when you could be making cornmeal porridge or oats porridge or banana porridge. These are healthy and better things for our children. But we're running down the supermarket and we're trying to show, oh, look at how, we have arrived. And the ones who are so-called educated and are influencers in the Jamaican space, they don't stop bragging about, how they need to have their foreign things and the special. I'm sure you guys know this particular woman. Oh, you can't stop hearing about how her education is wonderful and how she's so special, bragging about all these things. That's only toxic to the body. I would never step in a supermarket to buy any of these things when I can go to the market, I can go to the farmer's market, or I can, buy things. I always go to buy things from the locals. And if I buy some tomatoes and a piece of yam, or I purchase scallion or thyme or whatever, I do to make sure everybody gets a little sale. Look at this on the screen, Saturday soup. We all know how we used to have our soup every Saturday, pumpkin and, Irish potato, and you don't have to have meat to make a good soup. No, And sardine, how is that healthy? That's not really healthy. There are other ways you can feed your family. Yeah, we know we all love the bread, but like I'm saying, economically, if you are a family and your resources or your income is not great, you have to find alternative ways to spread that money, even as you attempt to eat more healthy. So instead of buying this bread, for example, buy the flour and make the fried dumpling. It works. And you eat this with your callaloo or your cabbage. That's still healthy. So while I empathize with struggles that some people are experiencing, they're also not thinking, they're not using the resources they have. Still purchase the flour, and I suggest you purchase the flour, and if it's possible, to put it away for days when there won't be any, because the thing is going to get worse before it gets better. Think, people. Think, Jamaica. Get away from trying to impress other people and take care of yourself and your family. Stay blessed, everybody.